So good morning, everybody, and back by popular demand here on the Soul Man Surgery, we have our very lovely Susan Watson from Perfect Solutions Coaching. Susan, I did call you Susan Wilson the other day. I don't know why. But I was like, Susan Wilson, and Gina's like, it's Watson!
I've been called worse, it's all right.
We've got Susan here today, and what we're talking about today, guys, is emotions and anxiety. That is the topic for today's session. So, Susan, I'll just let you lead then. I'll let you
start, right.
Hand over to you, yeah.
I'm going to, just because I like doing this and it puts me in a good place, I'm just going to ask everybody to start today's session just with that wet noodle and just relax our body. So we're nice and relaxed, just flop down for that second and just do that 10-second body scan. Your head to your toes, just going all the way down and just relax them. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And that just gives us a nice relaxed body, nice relaxed mind to start this. So today I'm going to start talking about emotions and what they actually are, how they impact us, and how they link into our thoughts and the messages we tell ourselves. I have got scribbles down here at the side of me so I don't forget what I'm going to say. So if you see me looking down, yes, I'm checking my notes. On track. So firstly, our thoughts cause a chemical reaction in our body which give us the emotion. So the way that we speak to ourselves cause an emotion to arise, and it's not always conscious. These thoughts can be in our unconscious part of our mind, and it just it's like a millisecond, just bang, you get an emotion going through your body. They're also based on your own beliefs, your own values. So it's really important to mention here, although they're real, your emotions are real and you're feeling them and really feeling, not to say they're true, because you have to challenge the way you speak to yourself. For example, if you're saying to yourself, oh, I'm really stupid, I'm useless, I can't do anything right, that's going to bring up an emotion of being hopeless, of feeling worthless. But is that message you're telling yourself about being stupid and useless, is that actually true, even though you're feeling it? So you've got to challenge that and say, right, what proof is there that I'm useless? What proof is there that I can never do anything right? And then start to look for the things that you do actually do right. And then you can change the emotions linked to that. Does that make sense? Because it's really important that, yes, we're feeling useless or we're feeling any emotion that isn't helpful, but it's not, even though we're feeling it, it's not to say it's true. Our emotions and what we feel in our body are literally just a chemical reaction linked to our thoughts and our beliefs and our values. And even the beliefs and values we have, there's nothing to say that they're true either. I mean, I might believe that the world's square. There's people who don't believe the world's round. But what's where's the proof in that? Just because I believe it doesn't mean it's a fact and it's true. It's really important to challenge things all the time. It's also important to always acknowledge your emotions. What we tend to do, and it's really unhelpful, is when we get an emotion that's too painful or too hurt, I call it opening our cupboard and stuff it in our chest and lock the door. We don't really deal with it. Well, that's too painful, that hurts me too much. You just sort of put your battle gear, your armour on, and you move on with life. But you've never really dealt with that thing that's happened or that emotion you've felt. And what you've got is you've got it locked away inside you. Going through life, something else happens, because that's what life's like. We come across painful emotions and painful situations. Another big thing happens, we open that cupboard, lock it away in our chest, lock that door, and we carry on with life. Now that cupboard gets pretty full of emotions that we've never actually really and truly dealt with. And the way I look at it is, how much space has that cupboard got? How much space is it before one day it just explodes and bursts open? And I'm going to apologise here because I do say the SHIT word, and I will be saying it on here as well. I hope that's all right, Stephen. So to me, all that shit just comes out. All that pain, all that hurt, all that fear. And that's when people get extremely overwhelmed. You get really anxious, you get depression, you get all these different things. And it's just like everything just comes out in one go. Really important to acknowledge what you feel. Also accept it, that, okay, this is how I'm feeling. You might question it and challenge it. Why do I feel this way? But it's so important that if you allow yourself to feel and don't lock it away, then you can clear it and let it go. And you don't need to lock it away inside you, but it causes a lifetime of damage. Has anybody got any questions on that bit? Because that's really the basis of what we're going to use here.
That's something that I definitely speak about quite a lot, Susan, is, you know how a lot of people say, listen, you just need to let things go. You need to let it go. And I always say, no, you didn't need to let it go. You need to move through it, feel the emotion of it.
That's what I would say.
Come at the other end of it. So
if you can sit with it, allow yourself to feel it and accept it, you're actually working through that. And by doing that, you're letting it go and you're not carrying it like this terrible weight, destructive weight inside you. Because we carry our emotions in our body.
Definitely something that I done when my granny passed away is usually I would just get back to work and get on with it, but I actually allowed myself time. Said to everybody, right, my classes are stopping for a couple of weeks. I need to take some time to move through the emotion of this, because I knew that would be an unhelpful emotion if I let it build.
If you hadn't done that, you wouldn't have really processed it.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously grief takes a while to process and move on with anyway, but from that space, that window you gave yourself was a really healthy thing to do.
I've done it before though, and I've stuck things inside my chest. You know, I've just swallowed it down, and again, it was grief. It was, you know, when I was 13, I found my granddad dead in his house, and it was the most horrendous pain. And what I done at the time is I just swallowed it all down and moved on. And then it wasn't until I was maybe 22, 23, it all just, it like came out of me like a volcano.
It's really hard because when you're feeling things that are so extreme, so painful, it is a way of automatically protecting yourself from that. So it's an adaptive behaviour to protect yourself. It's a further consequences that further down the road that's not been dealt with that causes the problems. So I'm going to show you ways today how to deal with emotions, both things that you're feeling in the future, but also things that a way to let go of things that you carry inside you. It's so important. And these are things that a lot of them can be used with children as well, because I'm a big believer that we should teach these things to young children so that they can manage their own emotions as they grow older, so they've not got the problems that like my generation have now, who are always putting the brave face on and things like that. It doesn't work very well. No. So emotions, there's lots of different emotions. It can be like love, anger, shame, guilt, fear, confidence, positive and negative emotions. So they're all bad. We need to have them. If we don't have emotions, we wouldn't have joy for life. And what happens actually if you bury all your emotions inside you and don't deal with them, they become so heavy that they actually take your joy out of life. And you'll find that people start to go numb, that they just don't feel very much, because it's almost like a depression. Your body sinks down. So if you think that we've got this bucket filled with emotions that we've carried in our life, just say someone was to come to see me and they said, I feel disappointed in myself. So I work on that disappointed and we clear that, we work through that. We've got to remember, this is an important thing when you work with emotions, that underneath that layer is a bucket full of other experiences that we don't really know what's in there, because it's been all things that have been compressed inside. So when you clear one emotion that you've been carrying inside you, you've got to be prepared that you never know what's going to pop up next. It's literally emotions that have been buried in layers and layers and layers. And it can really surprise somebody, because if they're working on, I'm really disappointed in myself all the time, I don't feel very worthy, and you work on that. And then they get something that comes up which is so overwhelming, and they're like, where the hell did that come from? It's because it's something else that's been buried in there. And you've got to be prepared to work through layers of emotions. It's a surprise at times what comes up. I think that's important. If people are going to do things like that, that you've got to remember there's other stuff underneath what you're actually feeling.
You talk about that though, Susan, and you talk about a string of beads.
That's right, I do. It's like it's all connected. It's like a string of beads.
Yeah.
You think you're working on one thing, but it's what's on the bottom of that string of beads that actually is the thing that needs help.
Because I've done some work with you and I'm like, oh my God, where did that come from? And you're like, it's just on that string of beads, don't worry.
Let's just pull it out. Let's get rid of that. The first thing I'm going to show you is called the butterfly hug. I don't know if anybody's seen that, but I love this. It's great for adults and great for kids too. Stephen's ran away and left me. So I'll show you anyway. Can you do that with your hands? Can you see that I'm putting the hook in the thumbs with the palms facing me? Then what you do is you put the heel of your hand in the middle of your chest, so your fingers are just resting almost like on your heel of your hands on your heart and your fingers on your collarbone. And what you do, this is really good for in the moment when you're feeling something that you don't really want to feel. It's not a great sensation. You're allowing yourself to feel it. You're not pushing it or burying it. You're allowing yourself to feel it. And as you allow yourself to feel it, you just lift one hand at a time and tap your collarbone. Now, what I do, this is the basis of the butterfly hug, but what I do is I like working with colours. So if I was thinking of something, I'm just going to say sadness for the sake of sadness, and I'm doing this on that, I would think of where in my body I feel that sadness or that feeling that I don't want, and I would give it a colour. And as I'm doing that and I'm giving it a colour, I would just imagine that colour like a mist just floating out my body, just leaving my body. And all the time, I'm just tapping. And then I would think of something that a colour that makes me happy. And for me, it's always a pale blue. So I would think of a pale blue. And I would imagine that pale blue, for me, it would just be filling up all my heart. And I would just keep tapping. That for me is peace. You do what's right for you. What you're actually doing is not just tapping on your collarbones. What you're doing is you're tapping on the left and right side of your body. So it's called a bilateral stimulation. You're actually stimulating left and right brain. You're allowing a change in the setup, chemicals in your body and in your mind to actually release the emotion that you're carrying inside. It's really gentle, it's really caring, and it's almost like giving yourself a hug. So it's a very loving way to release emotions that you're carrying inside. That's one of my favourites. If anyone's got children, what you can also do if kids are upset, imagine you've got your child sitting on your knee, but they're facing away from you. So they're lying back like that with their head on you. You can actually do that for them on a child that's upset, and it helps them release any unhelpful emotions. And on a baby, if you imagine, I wish I'd known this years ago, I'll tell you, if you imagine you've got a baby and you go shuggle, right? Thumb and finger on a baby's back, it calms them and helps them sleep and rest as well. So that's really handy for anyone with kids. I didn't know any of that with my kids.
Wish I'd known that as well.
I was like crazy mum. I had a pram on a string because I had a baby that cried 24 hours a day. It's mental. So that's a really good one. Definitely one of my favourite. I mean, I do my kids' workshops for the parents. I teach everybody that because it's such a good one. Now, the other one that I really like, and it's good for when we have emotions and things that are on our mind, it can be really hard to sleep, hard to rest. And it's the infinity symbol. I can't remember the proper name for it. If you imagine it's like lying on its side, so it's the 8. What you do is you just do the figure 8, but with it's crossing over right in the centre of your forehead. If you do that, if you're lying in bed and you can't sleep and you do that in your forehead, you'll just drift off. Very relaxing. It's, if you think when you've got a wee baby that's crying, we tend to stroke their face and stroke round the eyes. But it's actually, if you cross in the middle of your forehead, it's really relaxing. It draws the blood back up to your head and just causes you to feel more relaxed and at peace. When you're stressed and anxious, the blood pulls away from the front of your brain. And what you're doing by touching it as well as you're drawing it back in. Brings you really...
Also bilateral stimulation because you're going over both
sides.
Yeah.
The bilateral stimulation is used in a lot of therapies. I use it. I mean, you see, I've got the buzzers that I use in hands and things like that as well.
The bean bags.
That's right. I've got the bean bags too.
The bean bags are great. I've got my bean bag, and you just knock it from side to side to side to side. Anything.
A bit slower than that, though.
Yeah. And this isn't my bean bag, it's my tarot cards.
Yeah, but that's great for kids as well. And I give everybody a bean bag, really, if I can. It comes to me, it's really good.
The bean bag works really well for my little boy, Noah. Obviously, if he's having a bit of a meltdown, I always give him the bean bag, and he just sits and just knocks the bean bag from side to side, and it really helps him.
It's good. It's really calming. 2 minutes can calm anxiety down in 2 minutes. Now, another couple of wee hints. Again, this is good for kids. This one's good for panic, if people ever get panicky. Now, in today's world, I really shouldn't say make a gun, right, with your fingers. But when I was wee, we used to make guns with our fingers. Put thumb up and 2 fingers sticking out. And what you do with the other hand, you grip it. Now, it comes through. One hand will work better than the other, depending if you're left or right-handed. I hold my left hand with my right hand, but I want you to squeeze it really tight. Squeeze it so tight that you can feel like a pulse. It's almost like a little sensation or a pulse. Once you've got that, if you hold that, it stops people going into panic. So if somebody starts to get like really anxious, but if you think it's quite discreet because you could have your hands on your lap when you're doing that, kids can use it at school. You could be anywhere, nobody would ever know what you're doing. All you're doing is squeezing, but you've got to hold it. So you're holding it that tight, you've got that pulse. You will not go into a panic attack. That's quite a good one. And it's good for kids because they can do it under the desk at school and things. So they're not really visibly doing something. Another one is, this is another one I really like. When you get anxious and worried about things, you know, your body speeds up. Everything gets quick, your heart rate. If you hold your finger and thumb an inch apart, and just do that really slowly, really slowly. Now, I'm watching it, but you don't have to watch it. What happens is your body starts to sync with your finger and thumb. And your breathing starts to slow down. And your heart rate starts to slow down. So imagine showing wee kids that. That'd be really, that'll be good. That will be good for Noah.
That's amazing, eh?
It just,
you can really...
It was actually a trauma nurse who showed me that. It said she uses it in the recovery wards. So as soon as she showed me, I thought, I'm using that with everybody. It's great. So it works really well. And it's simple. And how good's that for kids? You could just have it at the side of their leg. They don't even need to have it up in the air. I'm just got it up in the air to show you. Works brilliant. Just calms your whole body down, slows everything right down.
It's actually quite difficult to do as well.
Think so?
Yeah, like see as I'm doing that, I'm feeling a bit of resistance with that. I'm feeling it.
Well, that's you, soul man.
Hey, is that normal? I'm just
well, what I would say to people, if you're resisting it, that's your responsibility to do something about that.
That's interesting, eh?
It's really good, but it does definitely slow you all down. Really good. Now, I've got another quick one to do that I wanted to get into. It's good for kids. That a big thing that really we should work with children to for preventative measures. Now, I can't say this very well, but it's something like Jin Shin Jitsu or something. Has anybody heard of that? The hand.
Yeah, I've had a wee look at Jinshin Jitsu. You hold each different finger.
All you do is grip it. Just grip the finger. They've all got different. So your thumb's worried. Remember, when you're teaching a child this, you're actually putting an anchor into their mind as well, to say, if you ever feel worried, hold your thumb. And your mind automatically will build an anchor. So if you hold your thumb, it calms you down. So your thumb's worry, next finger's fear, middle finger's anger, ring finger is sadness or grief, and the pinky is your heart. But love. But what you can do is, if you just like, imagine you've got somebody who's really nervous about going to school and saying that they're really fearful and worried, you can just say to them, just hold your thumb, hold that. Because the minute you instill that thought in their head anyway, and the minute they're doing that they think holding their thumb calms them, you're building an anchor with their mind that holding their thumb will reduce it. And it will actually work, because that's how the brain works. Really good. And it's just
Jin Sing.
It's Jin, Jin, Shin, and then some other word that starts with a J. I think it's Jin.
It's Jitsu, so it's JYTSU.
There it is. But it's really good, eh? It is, Diane.
Brilliant. Yeah, I use it with my skaters all the time. Really good.
Well worth looking into, because it's really simple. Really simple.
Yeah.
Before we move on to the tapping, I want Stephen to demonstrate this today.
I like tapping.
I want to talk about how you hold your body, how it influences your moods and emotions. So how you hold your body with head up, and how you're holding your shoulders, etc., influences your emotions and your mood. For example, you'll have heard of the expression, someone's down in the mouth. It's normally that they're sort of looking down. Or when somebody's like got their head up straight and their shoulders and everything, it's, oh, things are looking up in the world, that's really great. And it is, these sayings come from meanings in the past. So how you hold yourself is really important. And if you think of the world now that we tend to have our phones on our laps, and we're looking at our phones, looking down the way at the phones, that is actually pulling your mood down anyway. And I'm not saying anything against phones, because I use mine all the time, but we don't walk about with our phones up here all the time. We tend to be looking down.
Some of us do.
Yeah, I mean, they're filming themselves.
Sorry.
So just be aware of that. And I talk about the power poses all the time. You've probably heard of them. But one of them I always say is, you can get the Supergirl one or Superman one, you standing tall with your hands on your hips. But my favourite one is when you stand really straight and you're really stretching yourself up as if somebody's got a string coming out your head and stretching you up. And you put your hands upwards, stretching as far as you can, but the palms of your hands facing the ceiling. So your whole body's in that stretch. Then what I'll say is, lift your head up and look at the ceiling, and smile, Stephen, the biggest smile. But you know what? It actually changes how you feel, because you're doing that pose anyway, it's bringing more energy into your body. I think everybody should do it when they first get out of bed, because it actually energizes you and makes you feel better. And you know, even smiling, even if it's a fake smile, releases positive endorphins into your body, so you feel better anyway. So there's lots of good stuff there. So the power pose.
I like that.
And I'm going to move on a little bit about the tapping, because plenty of time, yeah. The meridians. Has anybody worked with the meridians or know about the meridian energy points in the body? So what it is basically an energy highway in the body. And what we can do is tap into that. And when we tap these energy points, it sends signals to the brain. So I'm going to do a wee demo of TFT and a wee bit of faster EFT today, because they're both just what I love. I love the tapping. I use it myself. It's my go-to. Whenever I get an emotion that I'm not happy with, I just tap it, get rid of it, and it absolutely works. But the most intense one that I use, what I find most effective for the strongest emotion, is the thought field therapy, which is a TFT tapping, which Stephen is going to demonstrate today. And if anybody wants to go along with this and tap along with it, you can do it, because nobody needs to know what it is you're feeling anyway. If you're just, Stephen's not going to tell me what he's working on. So if I was just to say to you, think of any feeling that you may have in your body at the moment that you wish that you weren't feeling, and you just tap along with me and you can feel the benefit of that. So we'll just start. You, Stephen, do you want to think it? Right. So have you got something you want to work on?
Yeah.
So we're just thinking about that, and you're going to just tap the start of your eyebrow, but this is the beginning of your eyebrow. Bit hard for me with my glasses on. Then go under the bone under your eye. We're just thinking of that feeling. We're letting it go. Then under your arm, where your bra strap would be.
Who says I've not got a bra strap?
Then on the collarbone.
Go upstairs.
Then I want you just to go to the back of the hand, just down a bit from the pinky and ring finger, about an inch, the wee dent, just tap away on there. I'm just thinking of that feeling. I can feel mine moving, like a swing. Straight ahead. Eyes closed, eyes open. Keeping your head perfectly still, move your eyes down to one side to the floor as far as you can go. Then back up to the middle. And then down to the floor on the other side as far as you can go. Back up to the middle. And then do a full circle with your eyes one way. Then a full circle with your eyes the other way. And hum a little bit happy birthday, Stephen. Count out to 5. 1, 2, out loud. 3, 3, 4, 5. And then happy birthday again. Right, I've done that bit. So then we go back to our eyebrow. I can't help but laughing because I always feel so. Going under your eye. Under your arm. Always makes me feel a wee bit nauseous. And then your collarbone. Then take a breath in and breathe out. And then just check in how you're feeling.
Good.
What I would say is sometimes you'll need another round of that. I'm not going to do another round here, but I would do a second round for that.
That always makes me feel really sick.
Makes me feel like I'm on a swing.
Well,
I can't watch anything that moves. I can't go on the shows or swings or anything. And it must be the energy moving in my body, because it makes me feel like I've been on a swing.
it's making me feel really like, whoa, you know that.
The thing is, if it gets rid of emotions that are really pulling you down, or do you know what, I've just had a really bad day. It worked for that. It's also that tapping sequence is used for trauma. So I use it a lot for trauma. You're laughing at
me emotional.
Are you?
What's going on? Wait a minute.
You've just cleared out some rubbish, Stephen. I'm going to carry on while Stephen gets his hanky. Right, we'll just ignore him. But the important thing is you can teach children that as well. I want to show you a faster EFT, because the faster EFT one's much quicker. And all it is, I'm just going to take my glasses off for this. Just say I've had a really bad day. We've all experienced bad days, right? And all you do, it's like a question mark. You go to the start of your eye, side of your eye, and I'm just going to say I'm just letting it go. Let myself feel it. I'm just letting it go. And under your nose, just releasing it. Just letting it go. Go to your collarbone. Just letting it go. Breathing out. Now I'm going to ask you to hold onto your wrist just in front of the bone. Hold it quite tight. Close your eyes and just say peace. Just really let yourself feel peace as much as you can. That sense of peace. Making it as strong as possible. Then all you would do is you would open your eyes again, you would check in with that feeling, and you would be like, what level is it now? Is it still there? And then you would just do right round your eyes, all the tapping sequence again, and back to your wrists and say peace. The way to remember that, I think it's like a question mark. You come round your eye, down your face, and your collarbone's a dot. Then your wrist, just a wee bonus, a peace. What happens with the tapping, you're releasing these emotions and you're getting rid of them. But you're giving yourself that little gift of peace. But what also happens is you're building an anchor there. So then your mind starts to associate that every time you hold that point in your wrist, that means peace. So you could be anywhere. You could be sitting in meetings, sitting with family, anytime you just feel a bit stressed, anxious, anywhere at all. Hand could be in your lap. You grip your wrist. Your mind instantly sends that signal, peace, right through your body and just calms you right down. So it's like having a little bonus there that you're building up just by doing that. And that works really, really well. Again, another one that's great for kids. And it doesn't have to be peace. You could just be calm, comfort, anything at all. So it works really well. And it's a nice quick one because it's not got all the eye movements and humming and things like that. What also happens is because you have muscle memory and your mind builds up associations, I understand that if you were sitting in the middle of the workplace or whatever, you might not want to say, hold on a minute and start your tapping. Very obvious what you're doing. But because your mind builds up this association, you could be sitting anywhere where you felt stressed or anxious or had an emotion coming up. You can think, you can imagine yourself in your mind doing the tapping. So at this moment, as I'm sitting looking to you, I'm imagining tapping around my eyes. And I'm imagining tapping on my face and my collarbone. You don't know what I'm doing, I'm just sitting here, but in my mind, I'm doing that. And it has exactly the same effect. Because the minute you've touched any part of your body, you have touch memory, feel memory, muscle memory, and you can do it that way, and your brain will still work with releasing that. So that's quite a handy thing to do. It works really well. Remember, your mind believes everything you imagine and everything, your unconscious mind, everything you imagine and everything you tell yourself, and it will react accordingly. You have a choice in every situation in life, what's called the choice point, where you can use your mind, your thoughts and imagination to your benefit, or you can use it against you. So it's just developing that awareness that if you can have thoughts that are negative and pull you down and make you feel unhappy or pain, you can also have thoughts that you can build yourself up and make yourself feel good. Because all your brain does is listens to your thoughts and reacts accordingly. So it depends what you're feeding it, how it will feel. I'm not saying it's easy, it takes practice. But once you've mastered that practice, then you're on to a winner, really. That makes sense?
Absolutely.
Any questions on that?
Why did that make me so emotional?
You must have had something in there. You must have had something in there today that was probably quite near the surface that you've just pushed aside and just carried on with. that you've never really let yourself feel. Something's happened and you've just thought, you know what, that's just how it is, and you've just got on with it. And then we've just pulled it out. That's a good thing, Stephen. Every single one of us have that. We all have moments. Probably every day, all of us will think, do you know what, I'm just getting on with that. I bet we just do it automatically, including myself, because I'm a human being too.
It just didn't, that what I was thinking about, it wasn't an emotional thing at all. And then obviously once I'd done that, I had that feeling of nausea, and then I had this overwhelming.
Stringy beads, remember the stringy beads?
Aye.
What you think you're feeling isn't necessarily what you actually think you're feeling. It can be linked to something else.
It's funny, eh? See, when we start working on ourselves, because see, for a long time, Susan, honestly, I was that person that always, I was scared to show my emotion. I had, my dad was always very much like, it's only girls that cry, that kind of, that's why I would never do the same with my children. My children will always be, like, cry, it's a good thing to do. But
it's probably a really good thing that you had that reaction here today and you felt that, because it goes back to what I was saying to people, that remember the layers? When you take that layer away, you never know what's underneath it. Mm-hmm. And what we're talking about, what you think you're working on is not necessarily what you're working on because of that stringy beads. And you were an absolute example of that there. What you thought you were feeling and what you thought you were working on wasn't. There was something else. And I'm actually quite pleased that happened, because it's easy to try and explain it in words, but you just actually demonstrated it without knowing you were going to demonstrate it. But when the minute that you start working on emotions, you've got to be aware that it can be like taking a lid of things, because you never know what's underneath there. So that you've got to be prepared for facing things that perhaps you've hidden that you didn't even know that you've hidden, if that makes sense.
I have to say, I find it really fascinating, because I always thought that I had, it was just part of normality, and my dad's a good man, don't get me wrong, but, he did have that very masculine, macho, you must be a man, and you can't cry, and you can't do this, and you can't do that. And I honestly see, since I've been working with you, Susan, there's been many things that have been pulled out of me that was definitely a lot to do with my dad.
It's a generation thing as well, that people were, I think that in the last 20 years, people have been trying very hard to change that. Definitely is, because I know, and I'm being honest here, I mean, my son, I've got one son will be 40 in December and one slightly younger. And I know that when they were wee, I would say, oh, stop your crying or I'll give you something to cry for. That is, I mean, I would never do that now, but I'm being honest with you, that was a generation thing at that time. Yeah. And we said things without even realising like the consequences of that, the impact of that. And that's true. I mean, I would never, now with the things that I know, I would never say that. But at that time, you wouldn't have even given it a second thought, and you just wouldn't.
Do you think that's really common though, Susan? Like, see, when you're working with people, obviously you work with a lot of people who, go through emotions and anxiety problems, and that's our topic today. Do you think a lot of what happens in our adult life and the way that we behave is to do with those early years?
Oh, without a doubt. Even things like, I would normally say that people who have low confidence, self-esteem, low self-worth, all these things, there tend to be a link that something when we're children. And it could even be just the fact that you've been in the playground playing and somebody says to you, you're ugly, you're stupid. And it's just another child saying it without even having any real meaning to it. But it gets taken into our head. We start to think about it. We actually code it into our brains like a computer, and it becomes our belief. That's why I'm saying our beliefs are not always facts. Challenge your beliefs. And then we start to go through life thinking we're really ugly and stupid and nobody will ever like us. And then our self-worth and self-value drops to the floor. All because a 5-year-old says to you in the playground, you're really ugly and stupid. Mm-hmm. It's what we take in here and what we code in to our brain.
That's why for me it's so important that, you know, my children, that like I show them love and compassion, and you know, I think obviously I have my moments where I'm like, you little shits, you know, like
Don't we
everybody
all?
does. But I think most of the time it's all about trying to install that genuine love and care in them so that they don't have those same issues.
We can all only do our best. None of us are perfect. We all have moments.
Absolutely. You know, I've called my son a little shit this morning already. Not to his face,
He
but
said, if you've got with the best intentions and want to do the very best we can, we'll all have moments when, in fact, it goes back to what we were talking about on Monday, about living with that stress level. The minute you go over there, we break our moral values when we go into because we're actually then experiencing an overwhelm of stress and we react to that. It's like I was saying, we don't get out of our bed every morning saying, yes, today I'm going to shout at my kids. Yeah. We're getting up and we're saying, like, today I want to be a good parent and I'm not going to shout at the kids and I'm going to make the home feel really loving and happy. Then I was saying, like, the milk gets spilt and the dog's barking, and the next minute you're like, for God's sake, shut up. And that stress level's going over. And that's when I come back to the wet noodle and the dialing exercises that I shared about dialing down. Keep yourself below that optimum level before you go to the toxic stress and you can manage things. You need to flop more, Stephen. You need to be the wet noodle more often.
I'll tell you, see, this week I have been flopping like a flopping, dropping, whatever. And it's really, honestly, really helped me massively.
I've done it a lot this week as well, actually. I have. I'm becoming more aware of, the more I talk about it, and the more I teach about it, and the more I practice it, it's funny, the more I'm aware of the tensions that I carry in my body. And the more I feel the tension, I'm actually now questioning myself, why am I feeling that? What's that bringing up in my mind that's making me feel this, whatever it is? And then I'm flopping. And that's what I was saying to you earlier. I'm getting a lot of memories and things coming back. And apparently the more you relax your body, the more you think your mind releases more, if you want, experiences that you've never really, that perhaps been too painful for you to face. Imagine your brain filters them out. Because you're all tense and all living in this stress, it doesn't release them to you. So the minute you relax your body, you can cope, if you like, with these old experiences coming up, and it allows your brain to process them. So instead of carrying them back here in your memory box, you're actually processing them and letting them go. So there's a lot of benefits for relaxing your body. Without even realising it, you can let go all the past rubbish. You can process the stuff that you've carried in the past.
It's definitely had this huge, big effect on me, Susan. Honestly, see, do you remember that day in the shop maybe 3 weeks ago where we sat and I'd said to you, oh, I'm just stressed. And you were like, come through, sit on the seat and flop. And there was very little else that we needed to do. I just had to flop my energy down. See, since then, I've just been like the silliest wee things. I've been really emotional, you know. Simple things like someone posts a really nice comment about their experience with our training academy, and I was like overwhelmed by emotion. It's crazy. And it's been like that for the last couple of weeks. I was actually saying to Gina the other day, I'm getting really emotional about loads of silly things. And I think it's the flopping that's really...
It allows you to feel more. And remember, emotions are really good emotions and bad. They're not all bad or all good, it's a mix. So you will, but it allows you to really feel, because your mind's recognizing, because your body's relaxed, that you can cope with all the feelings and thoughts and things and work through them. So yeah, I just turn into a more feeling person, more in tune into what's going on in your body. Mm-hmm. That's not a bad thing, that's a good thing.
That is a good thing. So
this is your joy for life.
Does anybody have any questions? It's always a good thing if you've not got any questions.
Diane has a thing.
A wee question. Just see the kind of stuff that you're doing. Is it called like kineticist, or is there a name for it, that kind of thing?
I just,
I mean, I know it's a mixture of different
yeah.
things. But it's all to do with like using the body to, as you say, use an anchor or change a feeling. So is there an overall name for that kind
Well,
of stuff?
the anchors came from when I was a hypnotherapist, because I was trained hypnotherapist. I used somatic body touching, which is your emotions in your body, which is touch, emotional freedom techniques to tap in. I'm trained in trauma therapy, so I sort of blend everything.
So you just
together.
blend everything together, all the stuff that you've learned over the time. Yeah.
What I've did is the things that are out of all the courses and all the training that I've done, the things that I really like, I pull them out and I've just blended everything in my own way of working, really.
Yeah.
So people come to see me. People don't even need to tell me why they've came to see me. I don't need to know anything. I'll just say to somebody, see what's brought you here today, what you want to work on. If you think about it now, can you feel that in your body? And we actually work with it and clear it without me having a clue what anybody is actually there for. Unless they want to talk about it, then of course they're welcome to. But a lot of people come and they don't want to.
Honestly, that is a game changer. See if anybody's had a session with Susan, see just going and not having to talk about it. It's just, I can't explain the benefit it gives you. I've had a session with you, a personal one session where I've been away from work and it really changed everything. Changed my whole perspective on a thing that I'd held for a long time. And see the fact that I didn't have to tell Susan about it changed everything for me. So thank you for that, Susan.
You're welcome, Stephen.
Thanks, Susan.
Actually, even because I do a lot of work with trauma, I mean, don't get me wrong, talking therapies has a place and can be very helpful and really good for people. It's not the way I work. The reason that I choose not to work that way is, I guess it's partly because of my own life. I've had a lot of traumas and that in my life, but I also think that when people keep talking about it, because I know the mind believes everything and reacts accordingly, I actually believe it's almost like re-traumatizing people.
Yep.
So I choose not to work that way, because I'm here to help people move forward, not to get stuck in the past. That's just my choice of working.
You know, the people don't always remember the things that you say to them, but they always remember how you make them feel. And it's exactly the same with any kind of trauma in the past. You remember how that feels. You don't maybe not remember the words that were said or the situation, but you certainly remember how you felt. Yeah.
And that's why I tend to just go, well, let's work with that feeling. Because if we can work with changing that emotional connection to that event, then that is good enough. You can move on with a life without carrying these unhelpful emotions, unwanted emotions.
Mm-hmm. And I have another question, Susan, seeing as nobody else has got any questions, and that is about children with ASD and autism and that type of thing. Because obviously, I've always been happy to share that our little boy he's actually got a triple diagnosis. He's ASD, autism, ASD, ADHD, and he's been diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder. So I'm not about labeling children at all, but it's very clear that he's got these very complex things going on there. And sometimes Nikki and I find it so challenging, so challenging to work with our little boy, because you've got this highly charged little boy who's telling you that you're a fucking wanker and whatever. He's hitting out. He's, it's just so difficult some days. What would your best advice be to parents that are going through that? Because somebody out there might be able to relate to that, and I'm just doing it for purely selfish reasons because I want to know,
a difficult one, but the first thing I would say is, I always say, is calming the anxiety, because the meltdowns and that are anxiety based anyway. So if you can do things to calm the anxiety, and I think the best thing to do that is most, I'm not saying every child, because every child's different, the same as we're different, play to their strengths. There'll be things that your wee boy really enjoys and really likes, the things that light his fire, if you like, that he's interested in. Play with them. And if you make any sessions that you do fun and playful, linking in what he likes, the more likelihood is that he'll get involved and take anything from it. So you have to almost step into his world and see what he likes and what he feels and join him there, because he can't step out into how you want things to be or your approach. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's and I know that, like, I've worked with some kids with autism and Tourette's and tics and things like that. And what I know did help them a lot is I made self-hypnosis recordings for them. So I actually gave the parents, they can do it in my voice, or the parents, I'll give them what to say and they can record it themselves. And it's the tics ones is particularly written in a particular way. But what I do is I write them, they have to tell me like their children's names, what they like to do, what they enjoy, what makes them happy. And the scripts are specifically written for that child with their name in it, personalised, linking into all the things that they like. I have to find out when the tics and the Tourette's get worse, because some people it's with excitement, other people it might be with stress, might be only at home, or it might only be at school. So there's a lot of information that I pulled together for that. But I have found that these self-hypnosis recordings are helpful, and they just go to sleep. It's like a bedtime story. It's listening to a bedtime story about themselves as they go to sleep. I found that helpful.
Gina is saying that she deals with similar. I deal with similar with my son, and figuring out what is raising the anxiety for him has been really helpful. Although admittedly, it's not always easy because he holds on to feelings for days. Yeah, we get exactly the same.
Yeah, I don't think it is easy, but once you actually, once you start to identify things, and even if you can reduce anything, you're taking some of that pressure off. And then every time you're doing that, you're taking some of that anxiety pressure off. It might, I'm not saying it's going to clear it all, but even taking a little bit off is taking a lot off for a child with autism. So it has a massive actually effect on how they feel inside.
Do you think it's a good idea to sort ourselves first before we deal with that as well? Because that's something that I've been doing, right, he's having a meltdown, right, floppy noodle, Stephen, do that yourself first.
Anxiety is contagious. That's what I say to everybody. Anxiety is contagious. If you have somebody in your home, the likelihood is that everybody in your home has anxiety, because we've got motor neurons in our body, and they, without even knowing it, it's just how we're made. We're herd animals. They speak to each other. Our bodies speak to each other. You ever walked into a room and thought, "Oof, what an atmosphere in here"?
Yeah. Susan's
your body actually picks that up. I get a lot of people want me to work with young kids, but I actually work with the parent as well, because I want the parent to take it back into the house. Because without a doubt, anxiety is contagious.
I think that's definitely a huge pickup, that like when Noah's having a meltdown, me and Nikki need to get ourselves to a good place first. Because what happens is, if we're reactive, then he's reactive, then the little one starts crying. And he's like, "Why is all been like this?" And then the dog's barking. And before you know it, everybody's like, "Ah!" And the house is crazy. And one parent saying, "Don't do it that way." And the other parent said, "Do it this way." So it can get a bit crazy. And Susan's just frozen on us, so I'll keep talking until she's back. But I think that's definitely for me. She's away. She's gone. She must have. She's either ditched us, or she's just decided, no, I'm gonna step out for a moment. Come on, Susan, come back. Diane, I think you've taken Susan's spotlight. Anyway, that was a bit of an abrupt ending to today's session. But I think what Susan was speaking about there with the emotions and anxiety, I think that's definitely helped me anyway. You know, as I've been going through that, I've really been thinking about my relationships with my children, my relationships with my wife, how we're reacting to each other, how my emotions are maybe triggering anxieties. And there's some really good tips there. I've taken loads of notes. I don't know about you guys, but I've taken some great notes there and things that I can use to be helping at home. So that is us for today. Soul Man Surgeries continues Monday morning. I have got a little break. So we've got Monday morning, we've got Susan again. Monday motivation, so just a little bit of help and support and getting us through the week. And then on Tuesday morning, we've got a special guest, and it is my friend David, and he is a personal trainer, has been in the fitness industry now for the last 20 years, I think. And David is all about really powerful, positive mindset. So you guys will all be able to take a little bit of his golden nuggets and how you can get started with fitness and wellness in a physical way rather than, you know, the mind, because when we're physical and well in the body, the mind follows, or vice versa. They both work together, don't they? I'm hoping that you guys will be able to take some golden nuggets from David then. And I shall see you all on Monday. Everything's going crazy on my screen here. I've got people phoning me. I've got Susan trying to... anyway. So take care, everybody, and I shall see you on Monday. Bye for now.